It is time for the Pete Souza Show. Very lucky today. We got some fireworks on the 4th of July. Cowboys, 2 weeks away from training camp. We talked to the voice of America's team, Brad Sham. And then we talk NBA with Noah Buono, the NBA's Noah Buono. He has been instrumental here in our sports coverage at Rogue Media. Done a lot of stuff with King, done a lot of stuff with me. This is the first time I've done something with him on this platform, so I'm super pumped about that. I'm also... I have a bit of a heavy heart today because I just watched the first 30 minutes, so I'm going to go home and watch the rest. Beverly Hills Cop was probably one of the most influential movies of my childhood. Just an amazing film. Eddie Murphy was like just the Rookie of the Year at the time this came out. He was more than the Rookie of the Year. He was like Michael Jordan or LeBron, like after they signed their second contract. He was just an elite performer, and obviously he carried Saturday Night Live, left Saturday Night Live, was doing movies, and Beverly Hills Cop was a smash hit, and it's something I rewatch over and over and over and over and over again, and Beverly Hills Cop 2 was really strong as well. So I say all that to say I just watched, and I mentioned the first 30 minutes of the latest iteration of Beverly Hills Cop. I guess it's 4, Axel F. It's just... And I've never been opposed to athletes overstaying their welcome. Brett Favre, all the way up until his career on the Vikings, you could say he hung on too long. Willie Mays just passed away. You hear stuff about him with the Jets. OJ with the 49ers. Even Tom Brady, the last season was sort of painful. But if he came back, I wouldn't care. My point is, Joe Namath with the Rams is another one that comes to mind. My point is, these guys are stars, and as long as they're in my life in one way or another, I don't mind. But it's been tough to watch the first 30 minutes of this Beverly Hills Cop 4 Axel F. I think it's getting better. I'll let you know next week what my final thought is. I knew it was, my expectations were pretty low. But it's just hard to see Eddie Murphy. When any performer that's just we've known as elite, seems like they're reaching even a little bit. We have to allow them to be human beings, but as fans, it's awfully difficult because we hold them to a higher standard. And Eddie Murphy's one of those people. And a thought hit me, man, this is why Eddie Murphy went away for so long. Because when you're that incredible, why do you want people to see you flawed at all? And a movie like this, and Eddie Murphy had some bombs. Pluto Nash, I think, was one. You know, there's a handful more. But he still is looked upon, and will ever be an elite comedy guy and just an elite actor. And nobody really, and when Eddie Murphy was at Saturday Night Live, I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, Eddie Murphy. It's different now, and I'll be interested to see what people think about this movie. But so far, again, it just feels like he's reaching. We didn't have to reach at all because we got Brad Sham. I got the message that we were good to talk with Brad Sham, and I was like, wow, my life does not suck. When you get a surprise message like Brad Sham's good to go for 4 o'clock, it's pretty cool because as a play-by-play guy, Brad Sham is somebody who you just hold in the highest regard. Cowboys play-by-play voice for more than 45 years. He's the best of the best, and here he is. Cowboys, it's fair to say, maybe on paper, they haven't gotten much better this offseason. What is your biggest concern heading into training camp? We're 2 weeks out.
Well, I think on paper they've clearly gotten worse. Now, that doesn't mean they'll stay worse. But they didn't. Now, I do think the one veteran player they brought in, Eric Kendricks, the middle linebacker, I always liked him. And he knows how to play Zimmer's defense. And I was at the most of the OTA and minicamp practices we were allowed to see, and he's still very athletic this deep into his career. So he'll help them. But if they get if they don't get really significant contributions from their rookies, then they're going to struggle. Now, in every training camp, every year, there are some players who surprise, come from the back of the pack, and there are some who underachieve. And that's actually, for me, the fun of going to training camp, to see who's going to do all that. But they've got to replace some people, and they've got to do it. They've got some young guys who are going to have to learn real fast. And then I would love to look. I've been doing it long enough that I've seen all kinds of contract stuff. But when you have that stuff like is sitting out there over Dak Prescott and CD Lamb, it's not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't help the atmosphere. They're all pros. They all understand the business side of it. And those are two real team-oriented guys. But, CD's already said he'll request a trade if he doesn't get his contract. There's no reason for him not to get his contract. Everybody kind of knows what it's going to cost. And they have a tough job to do to maintain a salary structure that will allow them to play a competitive team next year as well. But you got to have those guys. And so I think it doesn't get in the way of camp. It's not like that's a big concern, but it's a cloud. And you don't need clouds. So I think, the young players have got to contribute in a hurry. It's a great opportunity for them. And then the defensive line, I'm going to have to see somebody step up there. I'm very skeptical. I don't like to say concerned because a lot of people listening to us have relatives who are dealing with health issues, or they're dealing with it themselves. That's what concerns me. My son's well-being concerns me. But I think that I'm skeptical about how stout they're going to be along the interior of that defensive line until I see it.
No deal for Dak. You mentioned it, and also for CeeDee Lamb. And this is an organization there. If you could say one organization is the best at business, it's the Cowboys. I mean, 35 years you have seen Jerry Jones, or maybe more than that, just excel. Is there a chance they make a splash, a personnel splash, when camp starts, or will they be on the lookout for somebody who gets released, or is there, we don't talk about trades in the NFL, but is that possible?
Well, those are like three different questions. Because I agree with you that, and that's what is so perplexing to me about the fact that the Prescott and Lamb cases have both come this far, is that people can say whatever they want about Jerry, but money finds him. They are great at business, and these seem to be business deals that are complicated, but maybe not that complicated. And why those things haven't been done is somewhat mystifying. So we'll see how those play out. Both of the players want to be in Dallas, and Dallas wants both of them, so that's a good place to start. A splash player is not going to be available, and frequently we are now at the stage of the season that some of the best bargains are names that don't make a splash. And names that make a splash are not the best contributors to your football team. So I don't see any kind of a splash. I would not be surprised to see them picking up players who get cut. The cut will come in later August, and then the trading deadline's all the way into October. I think the running back position is one that's a little unsettled, and they will be keeping a close eye on it, and they will be looking at what backs get cut or are in danger of getting cut by other teams. So you could have a trade in camp or two if there's a defensive tackle or a running back. Those are the two positions that come immediately to mind that look like they're going to be on the market. Then that would not be shocking the difficulty with doing those trades is they are usually for draft choices right now. And, they didn't like not having a 4th-round pick this year. They were able to scramble a little and get an extra 3rd, and they may have gotten value, but they really like the Notre Dame linebacker that they picked up. But I don't see him trading away. I don't see him wanting to trade away a lot of premium picks. Although they're going to have some extra picks. They're going to have some bonus picks because of all the players they lost. Those guys bring you compensatory picks, and there's like 7 or 8 guys who probably are going to be significant contributors on their new teams, and that's going to bring them some extra picks, and you can trade those picks. Once upon a time you couldn't, but now you can. And so, but those trades might come a little later because right now you don't know what compensatory picks you have. You don't really know that until after the season's over and see how many plays guys played. But just to have a trade or 2 or 3 that brings in a little more depth or a competitor at running back or a defensive tackle, none of that would surprise me.
All right, we'll wrap up with this. Now, we talked about skepticism. What are you excited about going into training camp? Most excited?
It's another year. It's another chance to do something that I've loved for all my adult life and still have a passion for. And not everybody gets to do what they love. And I'm still able to do it. And believe me, when you get closer to the end than the beginning, every opportunity you have to do it again becomes more cherished because you don't know how many are left. Some of that's out of your control.
Was that impactful to you to see a guy who I'm sure you considered a mentor, Vern Lundquist, step aside at 83 years old in April?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
And yes, I do consider him a mentor and a very dear friend. And it wasn't a surprise. I mean, he told me a couple of years ago about how he was cutting down, and Vern's a great example. He's had a number of health issues. He's fought through them. And those are things that are not in our control. So it's I don't know that the fact that he kind of retired finally this year is any more impactful on me than knowing over the last couple of years some of the physical things that he was fighting and how he was able to massage his schedule with CBS to be able to keep doing some significant things. And now, you're talking about a special talent. I'm no Vern Lundquist, but you're talking about a really special talent who was able to continue to do a couple of very high profile things. But I would say the impact that you are asking about his retirement was less for this year than it's been for the last couple of years. You see him slow down. Look, it's like with our parents. We watch our parents, and there's nobody that does anything to prepare us for watching our parents decline. And that can be a sobering experience. And so when that happens, hopefully it makes us take stock of ourselves, and it maybe gives us a little greater appreciation for them than maybe we've exhibited for a while. And I think I certainly felt that about Vern, watching him play. He's had terrible back issues. He's had surgeries. And I know what he's been through. And, watching him fight through that, continue to be who he was, including in his life with his wife, Nancy. They travel a lot, and he still enjoyed his life. That's really important as you get toward the end. When you find the things that you love, to be able to keep on doing them as long as you can. And that's one of the reasons that I am looking forward to training camp. That's why one of the things that excites me is that I'm going again. It's going to be 30 degrees cooler in Oxnard than it is in Dallas, and that's always a highlight for me. We're going to be out there 5 weeks. I'm very happy. And the fact that I get to do it again when we start, we think we're doing it forever. And some of us are getting close to the end of forever. And so when you're in that spot, then you just are thrilled to be able to have a chance to do it again.
Yeah, Brad, I'm thrilled to talk to you. You know, I'm a Philadelphia guy, Eagles fan. You've been on my radar. You've been on my radar forever. And just so you know how much you mean to everybody, in late November, you were on the shelf for a game. It was November 30th, as you know. It was Thursday night. I met my girlfriend. I live in Waco. I met her in Burleson. We met halfway, and I was driving home. And I honestly, as a broadcaster, I turned on the game to listen to you. And I heard Kyle Yeomans. And I was like, wow, that's like – I was like shaken up. And, you know, come to find out everything works out. Kyle did an amazing job. I've talked to him about that since. But, you know, you are an institution, and you are part of the fiber of the NFL. So thank you for taking time with us today, and thank you for all that you've done. I shanghaied you at the awards real quick afterwards, but you're the man. I appreciate you taking time.
I remember, and you're very kind to say that. I appreciate it. In my life, it's important that I not look at myself that way, but when someone else does, I try to be very appreciative. I'm grateful for the chance that I have, both to do what I do, and frankly to be able to play the role with the Texas Sports Hall of Fame that I have. I think I've been involved with them since the early 80s. I was on the board a long, long time ago. So, I mean, we're talking about 40-plus years of involvement. They were back when they were in Grand Prairie. And so that's an institution that means a great deal to me, and they've treated me well, and I really am a big one on trying to make sure that they stay strong and relevant. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about it.
You got it. We'll be listening this year. Take care, Brad. Thanks for the time.
All right. Thanks, Pete.
You are the NBA's Noah Buono. I mean, we can legitimately call you that, which you try to downplay. I think is like awesome. All right. You also are a college basketball analyst. You're a college basketball player, former. So you're a great guy to talk to about all things hoops. I told you I want to do a little NBA potpourri. One of the first things I want to ask you about, selfishly, because I'm a Sixers fan. We talk about Paul George and his addition to the Sixers, right? He's 34, right. but he had a great season last year. I mean, I don't know. You say great. You're the one who's closer to the sport. But you look – honestly, I was like, wow, this is like a splashy NBA free agency move. But does he really make the Sixers better? And I looked at his numbers, and I said, you know, he might. What are your thoughts on that? Does a guy like Paul George come into the Sixers and make him better? Put him over that hump, dude. We've been on that hump forever.
He 100% makes him better. Now, can't confidently say that he puts him over the hump, because I think a lot of that comes down to Joel Embiid. But I think it's the perfect fit, because he's the upgraded version of what everybody was asking Tobias Harris to be that he could not be. He's that long 3-and-D guy. But with Paul George, is like he's been in big games. He's a self-creator on the perimeter. He can still guard with the best of the best on the defensive end. So I like the move, and I think if you're Philly, it's like the best option you had with anybody that was out there as a free agent. And like the fact that Tobias, because if you look at all those Philly runs, let's just say hypothetically Embiid was healthy for all of them. Like even when you go back to the Ben Simmons years, there was always a void in that third star option. Like who was going to be their third guy that steps up and helps you win a game when Harden and Embiid don't have it in Game 6 or Game 7 against Boston last year. Like, I think you're the Philly fan. Like to me, watching from an outsider's perspective, I was always so bummed at Tobias Harris's like lack of that. I think Paul George comes right in and is going to immediately surpass it. Like even as the third option, because Paul George has said numerous times, I don't want to be the number one option. Like I'm not comfortable as the number one guy. Like he's very comfortable as a 1B. And in this scenario, he's going to be not a 1B or a 1A. He's going to be option number 3. Like, it's Embiid, it's Maxey, and then it's Paul George. And I think he'll have a little bit of an easier time with less pressure to be able to perform in that mold. And I don't care about 34, 35. Like, he'll be fine. He's still really good at where he's at.
Well, how much gas do you think Embiid has left in the tank?
I don't know. I don't know how much of his meniscus is left in whatever knee it is, right or left. I'm concerned that he's going to be the next Lonzo Ball seeking a meniscus transplant. Like, it's concerning, and I'm pretty sure he's still committed to play Team USA, which is another thing that's like, does that make a whole lot of sense heading into 82 games? And I mean, you want to play at least 65, right? You want to be honored in all NBA and be in the conversation for MVP again. Like, he was amazing last year. The 30-something games he played before the meniscus tear against the Warriors, like, he was going to average 35 or 36 a game, 12 rebounds, 6 assists. Like, he was ridiculous. But, like, the question mark is like, is he going to last in April? And I don't like the whole talk of, like, oh, shelf him until the playoffs. No, you need to get a rhythm. But it's almost like they should just play him every 2 games and then sit him, because, like, there's so much risk involved just to get him down to the postseason. I don't know how much he has left. It feels like with Paul George, especially, like, he'll be 36 in 2 years.
Yeah.
This year, next year, only 2-year window they have with this core of those 3 stars.
What do you feel, what do you think about Jared McCain? Is he a guy that can come in and make an immediate impact?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that can space the floor and knock down shots and defend, I think, is valuable. I do think the defensive thing will be a little bit of a concern just because of his height. You know, it'll end up being more of a mismatch for most guys that he's guarding at the 2 spot. But as, like, a secondary ball handler, a guy that can knock down open shots, like, that was a great pick for them. But I must say it was a little odd they didn't just take Dalton Connect, a little bit more of a proven guy that can space the floor, who's 6'7", shoots over the top, movement shooter, blah, blah, blah. Like, he was on the board. He should have been drafted. Like, he should have been drafted at 15. He should have been drafted at 14. Not to go off on a tangent.
Why?
But, like,
why did he slide, Noah? Why did he slide there? Like, because that was a guy who I liked a lot. I know King liked him a lot.
I love Dalton Connect. He should have been a top. He should have got drafted 5th to the Pistons. Like he should have been picked early. But, like, the broadcast kept saying, "Oh, we're getting updates from NBA general managers that, like, they want younger guys," and it's like, you guys are ridiculous. Like, what's wrong with the 23-year-old proven competitor, SEC player of the year, made from nothing, like, literally no offers, to JUCO, to low major D1, to the SEC player of the year? It's like, he clearly has a thing for figuring it out, adapting to new environments. And I think the age played a factor. I think they were just like, dude, we want potential, we want youth. And a 23-year-old. But you know what's funny is that, like, those 23-year-olds that are proven, they all fall, and then they end up getting drafted by contending teams, wherever you want to place the Lakers. I would label them as a contender because they have 2 of the best players in the league. But, like, those type of guys like Dalton always end up slipping, and then they go to a playoff team and they become valuable right away. Like, Jaime Jaquez Jr. was a similar example from last year. Like, I know the Heat didn't make a lot of noise in the playoffs this year because Jimmy was hurt, but, like, he slipped to 18, and then you watched the season unfold, and you're like, this guy should have been picked in the top 5 or the top 10 because he finished first all rookie. And, like, you know, he just had it. 4 years at UCLA, he developed as a basketball player. And I don't know, I think it's a similar situation with Dalton Connect. It's like, they don't want the age, they want potential and youth. And, you know, then, you know, the 12th overall pick from Serbia backfires on you and no one remembers who it is.
How about people are here are talking about Klay Thompson and his addition to the Mavericks. What does he do for the Mavs that can enable them to get the ring next year? Because you would think he's a guy that can take him there. But is that more sizzle and not enough steak? Like, what's the reality there?
It feels a little sizzly just because you don't know what version you're going to get of him. Like, I mean, listen, the guy literally had the 2 worst possible injuries in back-to-back years. ACL, Achilles. He was down for over 2 years. And then, you know, he comes back and he wins a championship and helps Golden State, which is amazing. But, like, he hasn't truly been himself since 2019 against the Raptors when the initial injury happened with the ACL. And I just don't know what version the Mavericks get of him. As a floor spacer, yeah, he's going to be able to knock down shots. But, like, if you watch the Warriors at all last year, they were running plays for Klay to get him involved, to get him open, free him up on the perimeter. And, like, he just didn't have it. And I do think a lot of it was because he wasn't happy. So I can give, like, some grace there because it was, like, it's hard to do anything effectively. Like, if inside internally you're unhappy, like, how are you going to be, unless you thrive off anger and, you love that, and that's what you feed off of. But I think Clay, like I heard someone say this, like he thrives when he's happy. So if he's happy, there would be great. But the downfall is like Luka and Kyrie are two of the most ball dominant guys in the league. You can't expect to be like creating much. Like you're gonna be sitting in the corner, sitting on the wing, filling up, coming off pin downs, like hoping someone finds you on a skip pass for an open three. Like with the way Luka and Kyrie shoot the ball, I think it helps him. But if he's not the defender he was in the first 3 championships the Warriors won, which he won't be because we've seen, the last 3 years, then it's kind of like you take what you can get. That's kind of why, like, I was hoping he went to the Lakers for the story, but I also was like, if he's not the defender that he once was, like, the Lakers don't need him. Yeah. Why would the Lakers go get him? Like a 6'6", slower guy, like on the just didn't make any sense. So I don't know. I think the Mavericks, it made sense. 3 years, $50 million. They got him at a good number. But
if he's not in the mental place where he can accept the role of being the third guy, right, then he's got a problem I can't solve. He knows going into that situation that's what he's got to be. Yeah. I would think that, to what you said, the defense is going to be the big question mark. And can he create at all?
Yeah, I think he'll 100% adapt to, I'm the third option on this team. It's very clear Luka, Kyrie took them to the finals. I don't think that'll be an issue. I think he needed a fresh start out of Golden State. Like there's so many reports about just how unhappy he was in huddles, in timeouts, and in the locker room. And you could, starting and then coming off the bench and feeling like he wasn't respected. And the main thing that it goes back to is like 2 off seasons ago, they paid Draymond. And then the season before that, they paid Jordan Poole, just to end up trading him. And Clay was the only one that never really got like a fair shake at like a new contract negotiation. So I think it soured before any of this even unraveled. And then, you have the 2 seasons from hell. If you're the Warriors, you win a championship, and then your second practice of the year, Draymond Green punches Jordan Poole in the face. That season, you lose in the second round. And then this past year, it's the Draymond Green show, and, everybody's just disheveled and has no idea what they're doing on the team. Like, there just was probably one of the most dysfunctional Warriors years we've seen with all those guys on the court outside of the injury years. So I just think for him, change of scenery will help, regardless of what version of we get. I think the change of scenery will make him happy, and the happiness will give him some version of success on the court.
You mentioned Clay in the huddle, and you have knowledge to stuff like this. What is a spicy story in the NBA that people really aren't talking much about right now as we head into the real depth of the offseason?
About Clay?
About anybody. About, like all the stuff you take in, all the stuff you read. What is it? Mm-hmm.
I hate to bring it up, but like the Bronny James thing is a huge deal. And like, they just signed him to a 4-year, I think $7.9 million contract, like fully guaranteed, not on a 2-way. Like
that does not happen. I mean, look. That explain to people how that does not happen on planet Earth.
Yeah,
ever.
No.
First second round pick, 55.
No, most 55th overall picks like got to really work their way. They get on a 2-way. Like he hasn't even played a summer league game. And they already inked him to a, fully guaranteed contract of like, you ain't playing in the G League. Like you're on our 15-man Los Angeles Lakers roster, which like I've said it to King a million times. Like I'm a fan of like, and I know you probably saw the Woj stuff on ESPN about nepotism existing all over basketball. Like nepotism exists all over the world. So like, I understand that the Los Angeles Lakers is a different type of business than like a Morgan Stanley where you're just getting your son an internship or something and he can climb the ladder. But like, what's the problem? Like, if he doesn't work out and, it's a colossal failure, like it's only $8 million off the Lakers' back. And they did LeBron a favor in his later years. And he gets the chance to make history alongside his son and take the floor. Like, everybody that's being negative about it bothers me because you can't tell me that if you watch those two on the defensive end together and they're clamping on a possession and all of a sudden like Bronny gets a hand in there, pokes it away, and LeBron's running up the court and he throws it to his dad and slams it. That's going to be one of the greatest moments in NBA history. One of the greatest. Like think back to like Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. Uh-huh. He hits a home run. His dad's in the dugout, that shit's amazing. Like I'm looking at it that way. I don't give a shit if he sucks. I don't give a shit if they don't think he's going to be good enough.
I'm excited about just the absolute possibilities. And look, there's a gleam to it, and it is exciting, and it's sort of sexy. It's LA. Just sitting here talking to you, you mentioned, Noah, like, you're taking care of LeBron. When you look back at the history of the Lakers, they took great care of Magic before that was a thing to do. They put him on a lifetime contract at $1 million a year when nobody was paying stars like that. And then they gave Kobe that last contract where everybody was like, whoa. But at the same time, they have been known to take care of their stars. And that's like how the bus, how Dr. Bus worked. Obviously, that's how Genie Bus maybe is sort of moving things around behind the scenes. So it's not like a shock that they would, in one way or another, totally take care of their superstar. This is just a whole new way of doing it. And I was surprised last year that around college basketball, he really wasn't. He didn't get a chance to play a season like legitimately physically healthy. He got a late start,
right?
And I think he manages the off the court stuff so well to the point where like he's kind of got the answers to the tests, and I'm sure it's through being around his father and stuff. But even at that press conference yesterday, like that could go sideways, and I still do feel with some of those answers, it's like we're living in a fantasy world. It's like, can somebody tell the truth? Like it's okay. Like you and I are talking
someone tell
about.
The truth.
Yeah. It's just like this is not real life here. But at the same time, that's the game you play, and it just kind of is what it is.
Well, I would say two things about the USC thing. Like, I think that gets forgotten very quickly. Is like this time last year suffered the cardiac arrest, missed the rest of the summer, the entire fall was a build-up back, and if you look at it, like he essentially ended up having no summer with the team, no fall with the team, where anything he was getting with the team was just from observing. Like, so he's learning the playbook from the sidelines. He's looking at Isaiah Collier and Boogie Ellis, their top two players, and trying to figure out how to play alongside them from the sidelines. So then he gets thrown into the mix on a team that clearly didn't mesh well, clearly didn't have the right, I don't want to blame the coaching, but that definitely was a huge factor as to why a team with that much talent couldn't be successful. So you add all those things up, and it's like, of course he only averaged 4 points in 19 minutes a game. Like, he's never played college basketball before, and he was coming off the bench. He had no idea what his role was. He was like I personally always thought it was never a great fit for him because of all the guards that they had at the 1 and the 2 spot. But fast forward to what you said about, the press conference. The other thing that I kept thinking about when I was watching the presser yesterday was like, it does sound like he has the answers to the test, but didn't you think, you tell me if I'm wrong, but my observation was like, he just felt a little too scripted. It felt a little bit too, answers were already pre-programmed.
Yes. Well, that's like, because I believe they were. I believe that is like a stratosphere, literally. And I got a chance to work in the NBA and do PR and be around it. You've been around big-time basketball players for the most of your adult life. I think that is a whole nother stratosphere, right? Like the LeBron, the Clutch, the Rich Paul, like those are rooms that are damn near impossible to get in. And I think that there's a lot of he has the help that he needs, that they figure he needs to answer the right way. I'm sure at some point he'll spread his wings and take on an identity. But for right now, I agree. It was like it's totally we're sticking to the script here, and we're not giving anybody any meat on the bone.
But like some of his answers, like even if they were like they obviously weren't scripted, but they were mapped out in a sense. Like someone asked you about your dad, take this lane of response. But the one thing I wrote down that I kept thinking was he just felt, rightfully so, nervous, but he also felt uncertain in like what he wanted to say. Like I forget the one clip that made the rounds about like it was never really a thought in my mind to play with my dad.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Come on.
Yeah.
I never really had a thought of, me going to play with my dad, but that's always, there to, take part of, but that wasn't a main focus of mine to do.
Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be a thought? I don't understand. Like your dad's thinking about it. You guys live together. You're talking about it. Like, why wouldn't you want it? Why wouldn't that be a huge thought? Like, but that's the thing. They've tried to create this whole like Bronny's carving his own path, which he is. But like, we're watching it unfold. Like, he just got an $8 million guaranteed deal. He just got drafted 55th overall. If the Lakers don't have that pick, he doesn't get drafted. And so it's like, why not just say like when he said that, I was bummed because I was like, if I was LeBron, I would feel kind of like hurt. You never wanted to play with me. Like,
I was bummed for Bronny because I felt like it was an opportunity to be genuine, and he kind of missed the mark, and just like, you know, and I felt like he really was like we've talked about, just sort of robotic, you know.
Yeah, it was a little robotic, and I was a little bummed by it because you're right. There was a moment for like, could have been really authentic and genuine there towards LeBron, and it just went the other way where it was like, you've never thought about the idea of throwing your dad a lob in an NBA game, like, or coming off a pick and roll with Anthony Davis. Like, come on, man. Like, I think about that, and I'm never going to have the chance to do it. Are you kidding me? If I could lob one up to LeBron, hey.
All right, so I want to ask you a little bit. So your background, so you're from Jersey, Central Jersey, obviously a hooper. Take me through the evolution of the Noah Buono story. Like, you go to high school. How was that recruitment like? I want to get 5 minutes of this in because I'm curious.
My recruitment was horrible. I don't really have a lot of ties back home anymore, so I'm not, afraid to say this, but like, my high school team sucked. When I got into high school, my brother was a junior, I was a freshman. The goal was always for us to start on varsity together. That ended up happening his senior year, my sophomore year. But my first 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, the varsity team was 4-44. We were horrible. I finally turned into an upperclassman junior, senior year, leading the program, turn it around, yada, yada, yada.
What do you mean, yada, yada, yada? How'd you turn it around? Like what? Give me.
We finally went 500. We went to the state tournament. We qualified for the state tournament.
Let's go.
We qualified for the conference tournament. Like, unfortunately, I was 10 games into my junior year. I was
just
averaging
like
like
Seinfeld.
17
You yada yada yada. The best part, bro.
Yeah, but it, like, the peak of the story never really has that spark. So it's kind of just turns into yada yada. I mean, for Christ's sakes, we were 4-44 the first 2 years, and I think we were only like 15-11 the following 2 years. Both years we were the same record. And I drum up my high school career that turned into like a struggle getting recruited. Is like, I just was unwilling at the time to step more outside my comfort zone and play around different people. Because I always knew if I was going to my high school, like, I was the best player there. I was always comfortable, confident. I knew how to play my game. But like, you put me in any other gym, like some AAU teams, yada, yada, like, I never was comfortable enough to like really play my game and be myself. And I was like a shell of myself. So like, I drum it all up because once I got to college, like, I get recruited. I hustle my ass off. I end up getting myself recruited to Rider University, which is actually right outside Philly. And I'm a preferred walk-on there. I spend the whole summer there. I graduate high school in June of 2017. I move into Rider 2 weeks later, so early July, right before the 4th, that summer. And it was it was made very aware very quickly that I knew nothing about basketball and I had no idea how to play, and that all the basketball I had just spent my time playing the last 14 years, I was not playing correctly. I hate to say it, but I wasn't coached correctly. I wasn't coached that well. So like the actual game of basketball was like opened up to me, where it was like, oh shit, like, you're not just a 6'5" shooter, man. Like, you're not doing like 80% of what the rest of the game is asking you to do. Like, you don't know. I knew nothing. So that hurt me. Like, when I look back on it, like, that hurt me because I had so much skill, but I didn't know how to use it. And like, if you watch film of me in high school, it's like, and the way my team played, some of the most embarrassing shit ever. Like, it's like, what is that product? What the hell was going on there? That looks like a 7th grade free for all. So
you're a Rider, and then from Rider you transfer, right?
Yeah, so I do 2 years there, and I'm finally like, let me go play. And I transferred to a Division III up in North Jersey that had a lot of success. They went to like a Division III Final Four. They won a number of conference championships like leading up to that. And my brother went there. He was a senior.
What's
so
the name
it was
of the
like
school?
this cool Ramapo College.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend who lived in Ramapo, New Jersey. I told you that. Yeah.
I left there on bad blood because like the pandemic hit later that year. So I didn't even finish out the year. But the downside was I went there with a back injury that was like couldn't be diagnosed. So for like 8 months, my second year at Ryder, like that's half of the year. So this was like January 2019, all the way until I move into Ramapo, August of 2019. I have a back injury. I have no idea what's wrong with it. Can't get like the right imaging done. My mom loses her job, so we can't get insurance to like get the x-ray or the MRI, the CAT scan. So I go the whole summer just doing a lot of rehab with some of the doctors in the area that my parents knew. And it was cool. It was like really extensive therapy. But then I get to Ramapo and I play one thing of pickup like the first day that I deem myself healthy, and my back pops again. So now I'm out for 4 more months from September up until the season starts. But then I can finally get the imaging. So I get an MRI, I get a CAT scan. I have a herniated disc like right at the bottom of my spine. I think I had like a cracked or a torn, I forget what the name of it is, a torn QL muscle. So that's like right in your lower back, like a partial tear there. I had a partial crack, like right in the base of my hip bone, like all this weird shit that I didn't even know what was going on. And it explained all the pain. So it healed while I was like resting that summer. But then I run into a coach that, you know, just he didn't want to shoot threes. And I was the guy, I was brought in to shoot threes. It was like, yo, like we don't have anybody that can space the floor, stretch the floor, like shoot the three at the guard spot. And we just got off on the wrong foot because of my injury. So by the time I was healthy, he didn't play me. And then the pandemic hits. And I knew like once he wasn't playing me on a team that like was okay, but we were like 0-7 to start the year. I'll never forget. I get subbed into a game. I score 5 points in 30 seconds. I get taken out and never play the rest of the game. That's like the highlight of my Ramapo playing career. Because the guy was just a dick.
And then you went to, and then you end up going back to Division I. You play in the Atlantic 10 at Duquesne.
So then pandemic hits and I spend 4 months at home and I'm hustling to figure out how I can just get back at the D1 ranks just to like continue networking and building connections. Because my thought process through all this at the time was I wanted to coach.
Yeah.
So I just had a couple connections that helped me. Like I gave a list. A couple of these guys, like former coaches, knew people at Duquesne. And then that ended up working out where I moved in there in July of 2020.
And that was a good experience.
I've been in Pittsburgh ever since. And yeah, and Duquesne, I shouldn't have spent as much time on Ramapo because Duquesne was amazing. And like, it just, talk about opening up the door for basketball. Like Coach Keith Dambrot, who just retired this past year, like the guy's a basketball wizard. And the dudes that were on his coaching staff, like, were just some of the best guys I've been around. Like, to the point where like, I'm a player on the team, but like most of the time I enjoyed like hanging out in the coach's office, like being around the staff than I did some of my teammates, just because they were so cool, connected. They had such, like, they had been together for 13 years by the time my last year hit there. So there's so much history built in with the staff and like so much like with all of them that when I got there was so much to learn about, like why they had so much success at Akron before they came to Duquesne. And I just was like brought in as a random walk-on that they wanted to help out. And I just busted my ass and like did a good job. And
I'm sure you brought a lot to the team, dude.
Yeah, like I embraced my role. Like I knew going from the MAC with Ryder to the A10 with Duquesne, like the chances of me playing were even more slim, especially coming off a pandemic and like still not really having a great feel for the game. So, then I get there and I get a whole summer in there, and it's weird because it's COVID and we can't have full team practices, but like just the way I was utilized on the scout team to like help the guys, and then kind of just being told like, yo, like this is going to be your role. If you can do anything with it to help us, that's great. And we can play you fine. But like, they just kept it real with me. And I kind of knew the whole time, no matter how well I shot the ball on the scout team, like that was never going to be enough. Like I knew I was behind because I didn't have a great concept, defensively. And I never got enough chances rep wise to like learn defensive schemes and movements and rolling over a back screen and, timing and anticipation. I'm definitely a little more slower footed for a 6'5", like lean guard. I definitely, getting blown by a 6'1" guard, that's for sure. So I kind of was always aware, like I have a job, and if I can just like do well on the scout team, like I'll be fulfilled for my last 2 years by helping all these guys. And like, cause when you're a walk-on, like it's about being something bigger than yourself. Like you're a part of something that like, in the grand scheme of it, like the team is fine tomorrow if you can't make the road trip, but like on a day-to-day basis, like
they need you.
If you can't make, and if you can't make the road trip, my presence would have been missed because that was like the imprint that I tried to put on practice every day of just like my energy, my voice, like, and they let me be myself, which was really cool. So like, I just have nothing but love for those guys. And unfortunately, like most of the staff isn't there anymore because Keith Dambrot, coach, just retired. But I got a couple friends there that's still pretty cool. So yeah, that was an amazing way to kind of cap it off. Even though, you know, all in all, I never really ended up getting to play again, which obviously will
but you
sting for the rest
contributed,
of my
and
life.
basketball is kind of in your bones. And so now you work as an analyst. You work for the NBA. Where can people find you? Where can people track down Noah Buono?
Yeah, so I make it used to be more frequently. I'll get back to the frequency of it, but on my Instagram, courtside.snow, I do a lot of like 1-minute video breakdowns of college, NBA, prospect stuff, game breakdowns. I love breaking down film and the game and, you know, having some energy in there. I appreciate that. Yeah. I wish I was on social media a little bit more. I just like with my son being born and my job with the NBA, I've been a little tied up to sit down and edit my own content. But at some point, like I'll get my channels rolling back. But, you know, in this day and age, like building a brand is hardest possible thing you can do, especially when you don't have like big media backing.
Yeah.
So like when you're independent and you're trying to do it on your own, like it's hard to get viewers to like see a random face and be like, let me give this guy a chance. You know, everybody's attention span is like, you got like a second and a half to catch someone. Otherwise, like they didn't make it this far into the Pete Sosa show.
Yeah. You got it. All right, Noah, you're the man, dude. I really appreciate your time. We're definitely doing this again.
Absolutely, man. Anytime you need me, I'm happy to jump on. This was super fun.
Appreciate you got it, dude. And you got it too. So we'll be talking, man. Let me know if you need anything. Holler at me.
All right, brother. All right, man. See you.
Thanks, Noah. That's it. That's it for the Pete Souza Show on 4th of July. Do us a favor. If you're not sanctioned to shoot off fireworks, take it easy. All right? Zach doesn't even go out on 4th of July because he has to stay home with his dogs and make sure they're cool because they freak out when they hear fireworks. Personally, I'm always gone, so I don't even know how my dog responds to fireworks, but I'm sure she gets offended. She doesn't like thunderstorms. And, just take it easy on the fireworks, all right? I love America. I bought an American flag this week for my home. I realized I didn't have one. I actually got bunting, but again, like I talked about at the top, I feel like I definitely would have been reaching, so I didn't put it up. But, wave the flag. Don't go crazy on the fireworks. We'll see you next time.
We are Rogue Media Sports.